So what we have here is one of the Metropolitan Police records, and this is from 1912 in relation to the militant suffrage campaign. And essentially there was a particular protest, a window smashing campaign, on the 1st of March and kind of slightly across the month. And essentially it was a very much an organised protest in response to the government's lack of movement on a particular private member's bill at the time. And so what we see is the kind of the level and scale of damage that is being done by these women who are campaigning, or predominantly women at this point. So essentially, at a glance at this document, we can see a number of locations where damage is done predominantly through window smashing, but also occasionally kind of other kinds of breaking of property. Essentially, so this is really the way that the women at the time, about 150 of them, targeted various locations in the West End to be quite prominent. Many of them are high-profile locations. So we've got places like Oxford Street, New Bond Street, Piccadilly, Regent Street. There's, I think, Harrods is mentioned in here. You have action around Covent Garden. So it's a real coordinated campaign. And essentially on the 1st of March, there was, I think it was 5:45 p.m, this kind of movement of 150 approximately women, all kind of instigating this campaign at the same moment. So I think in terms of militancy, this is a really interesting example of how coordinated suffrage militancy could be, how much of an impact it could have. So we can see some of the figures here of the claims. So these are insurance claims that really add up to hundreds of thousands of pounds of kind of current money in terms of the damage that was being done. And from that, I think we can see kind of the motivation in some way behind the campaign, how it was deliberately high profile, prominent places where people would be shopping, where they'd get an audience, but also kind of shows the monetary value of the damage, how it was affecting businesses, guess reflecting the difficult position of the government at the time, having to have the pressure from businesses that were having this kind of damage inflicted upon their properties, but also the pressure at the same time from these women that were constantly continuing to campaign, changing the ways of campaigning. So it's just an interesting document, I think, to show the kind of the scale of what's going on at this moment. We can also see the type of campaign from kind of changing at this time. So in March 1912, essentially this is one of the first campaigns where there wasn't advance notice given by the Women's Social and Political Union. Normally they would have, prior to this, given some kind of warning that there was militant activity intended, given the government a chance to respond, but this is kind of a point where the movement's changing and this advance warning wasn't given in the same way, and it's kind of, I guess, at the period where this is then moving into more the arson attacks and targets on government ministers as well. So it's that kind of point of the militant movement.